The 2025 NBA draft lottery shocked everyone. The Dallas Mavericks, who had only a 1.8% chance to win the first pick, ended up landing it. What makes this even crazier is that just 3 months earlier, they traded away Luka Doncic, one of the best young players in the league. That trade was called one of the worst in NBA history. Now, somehow, they're getting rewarded with a chance to select Cooper Flagg, the top prospect in the draft coming out of Duke. Cooper Flagg is a complete two-way player. He's an elite offensive and defensive talent. He can block shots, guard multiple positions, shoot the ball well, and finish at the rim with contact. He has the skills to make an impact right away in the NBA. This pick gives Dallas a new direction. Their second-best player, Kyrie Irving, is expected to miss half of the 2026 season due to injury. They also have aging stars like Anthony Davis and Klay Thompson. Flagg gives them hope for the future. The Mavericks already have decent depth in their roster, especially with bigs and wings. Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington will be free agents in 2026, and with Cooper Flagg coming in, one of them might be traded. Gafford is underrated as a big man, and PJ has improved a lot defensively. They could help the Mavericks land a solid guard or wing if traded. If Kyrie comes back strong, the Mavericks could make a playoff run next year. And even if not, they now have a long-term core with young players like Max Christie, Jaden Hardy, and Derek Lively, built around Flagg. It's still hard to believe. The team that gave up Luka just got one of the best draft prospects in recent memory. The San Antonio Spurs have done it again. For the third straight year, they're picking in the top 4 of the NBA draft. This time, they jumped up and landed the number 2 overall pick in the 2025 draft, and their rebuild is suddenly speeding up fast. Back in 2023, they got the number 1 pick and drafted Victor Wembanyama. In 2024, they selected Stephon Castle with the 4th overall pick, who just went on to win Rookie of the Year. Now, in 2025, they're in a position to add Dylan Harper, a player who would be the number 1 pick in many other drafts. Here's the twist. The Spurs might not even need Dylan Harper. They already have De'Aaron Fox, who they traded for at the 2025 deadline, and Stephon Castle, both in their backcourt. Adding another guard may be a luxury, but it also opens up major trade possibilities. Think about this. The Spurs can use the number 2 pick as a trade chip. If they want to go all in, they could use that pick to chase Giannis Antetokounmpo. And they wouldn't be the only Texas team in the race. The Houston Rockets and Dallas Mavericks could also try to make moves for Giannis. But the Spurs have a ton of assets. Besides their top draft picks, they have young players, solid contracts, and cap flexibility. If they put together a trade package including the number 2 pick, they could make a serious offer for Giannis. There's also another option. Instead of going for Giannis, San Antonio could try to get Kevin Durant. Unlike Giannis, Durant might not cost them the number 2 pick. That means they could keep Dylan Harper and still land a star. The 2025 NBA draft lottery wasn't just about Dallas and San Antonio. The Philadelphia 76ers had one of the most dramatic lottery nights of all. Going into it, Sixers fans were nervous. There was a real chance they would lose their pick altogether, depending on how the lottery played out. But instead of losing it, they jumped into the top 4 and ended up with the number 3 overall pick. That pick changes everything for Philly, and now the front office has some huge decisions to make. Let's take a look at the current state of the Sixers. This past season was a disaster. They were supposed to be contenders in the East with Paul George and young talent like Jared McCain. But things didn't go as planned. Injuries, inconsistency, and bad chemistry led to a major drop-off. Even Joel Embiid couldn't stay healthy. For a team that had championship hopes, it couldn't have gone much worse. But now, with the number 3 pick in their hands, the Sixers suddenly have options. They could use the pick to select a top prospect like Ace Bailey or VJ Edgecombe, 2 athletic wings with high ceilings. Pairing a young player like that with Embiid and Tyrese Maxey could help build for both the present and future. Or they could go big. One option would be to package the number 3 pick and Tyrese Maxey and go after a superstar, maybe even Giannis Antetokounmpo, if Milwaukee is open to talks. Another option would be to package number 3 and Paul George in a deal for someone like Kevin Durant. Basically, Philadelphia now has the kind of trade leverage that can reshape their team overnight. Even if they decide not to go for a major star, they could still trade down. Teams like Charlotte, Utah, Washington, or Brooklyn might be interested in moving up to grab someone like Ace Bailey. In that case, the Sixers could slide down a few spots, grab a more NBA-ready player like Colin Murray-Boyles or Tyler Kolek, and add more depth or assets in return. And depth is exactly what this team needs. Behind their stars, they lacked role players who could make an impact, especially when injuries hit. Let's not forget the timeline. Joel Embiid is turning 31. His health is always a question. Daryl Morey, Philly's president of basketball ops, knows that the window to win with Embiid is closing fast. He's not the type to sit back and wait. So whether it's using the number 3 pick directly, trading it for a star, or moving down to collect more pieces, this offseason will be huge for Philly. There's even talk that Philadelphia could try to make multiple trades, using this pick to bring in talent on both ends of the floor, possibly going after two-way players or a proven scorer to pair with Embiid. And unlike last year's Toronto Raptors, who lost their first-round pick in the lottery, the Sixers were lucky. They were this close to walking away empty-handed. Now they hold a top 3 pick in a draft class that has star potential. The real question is, will they take a long-term approach or go all in for a championship run next year? Whatever they do, this pick gives them control over their future, something they didn't have just a few days ago. While a few teams like Dallas, San Antonio, and Philadelphia walked away from the 2025 draft lottery with massive wins, not everyone was so lucky. In fact, for several teams, this lottery was a brutal reminder of how unpredictable and unforgiving the system can be, especially under the new odds introduced in 2019. Let's start with the Utah Jazz, who had the worst record in the NBA this season. Normally, that used to mean you'd get the top pick or at least end up in the top 3. But under the current lottery system, Utah dropped all the way to the number 5 overall pick. This is the 6th straight year that the team with the worst record has failed to win the top pick. Utah had dreams of building around a frontcourt featuring Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper alongside Alex Sarr. That could have changed their entire rebuild timeline. Instead, they're now stuck with what's likely a B-tier prospect, someone who might be good, but not franchise-changing. It's a tough blow, especially after such a long, painful season. Right behind them, the Washington Wizards also had bad luck. They fell to the 6th pick, despite needing a top 3 talent more than almost any other team. With no star player and no clear direction, Washington now faces another year of uncertainty. Then there's the New Orleans Pelicans, who were crushed by injuries all season. They were hoping to get a high pick to pair with Zion Williamson, maybe even add Cooper Flagg to finally turn things around. Instead, they fell to the 7th pick, putting them out of reach of the top prospects. It's another setback for a team that has struggled to stay healthy and consistent. The Brooklyn Nets were another team hoping to strike gold. After trading away Mikal Bridges and leaning into a rebuild, they were supposed to land a top pick and start fresh. But they only got the 8th pick, which doesn't give them the star-level talent they were hoping for. Now they face a decision: stay patient or use their draft assets to make a move. Could Brooklyn offer a trade package for someone like Devin Booker or Jaylen Brown? Maybe. But realistically, they're not in a strong enough position to go after Giannis or any MVP-level star right now. They may have no choice but to stay the course and hope for better lottery luck in 2026. Toronto also dropped 2 spots, landing at pick number 9. After a rough season full of injuries, they were hoping to grab a top prospect to speed up their rebuild. Instead, they'll probably end up drafting a role player or backup big man, not the game changer they were hoping for. The Houston Rockets were considered a wild card in this lottery. If they had moved into the top 4, they could have been serious players in the Giannis sweepstakes. Imagine Cooper Flagg playing next to Amen Thompson and Alperen Sengun with all the future picks they've collected from Brooklyn and Phoenix. But they weren't so lucky either. They fell to pick number 10 and lost out on a potential superstar. Still, Houston might not stay quiet. With the assets they have, they could offer a strong package for Giannis or Kevin Durant. In fact, they could give Phoenix its own picks back, which might tempt them to move KD and start over. That's something to keep an eye on. Down at pick number 11, the Portland Trail Blazers didn't make any big moves, but they're quietly on the right path. Even without lottery luck, they have a young core and are staying patient in their post-Damian Lillard rebuild. The Chicago Bulls were also victims of bad luck. They lost a coin flip to the Mavericks for the 11th pick, and that difference allowed Dallas to jump to number 1. If Josh Giddey hadn't hit a meaningless half-court shot to win a late-season game, Chicago might have had that chance instead. Atlanta ended up with a 13th pick, and San Antonio, with their second first-rounder, grabbed the 14th pick, just adding more value to their trade options this summer. But it's not just the lottery teams that were paying attention. Teams still in the playoffs, like Boston, Cleveland, and Orlando, are watching how these picks will shape the offseason. Boston is in financial trouble with a huge tax bill and might make changes. Cleveland could move Jared Allen to avoid the second apron. Even young teams like Detroit, Toronto, or Atlanta could get aggressive in trades, knowing the East is wide open. And that's the big takeaway here. The West just got even stronger with Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, and potentially Kevin Durant or Giannis all staying out west. Meanwhile, the East is losing ground. With players like Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama, and Cooper Flagg all in the West, the power gap is getting bigger. So while the 2025 draft lottery helped a few teams get closer to a title, it also made things a lot harder for everyone else. De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Kevin Durant, Victor Wembanyama, and Dylan Harper coming off the bench. That's a serious contender in the Western Conference. And it's not just hype. Harper is a legit prospect. He's a 6 feet 5 inches combo guard who can score in all 3 levels, driving, mid-range, and from deep. Many scouts believe he has a higher ceiling than Castle, even though Castle just won Rookie of the Year. No matter what they decide, the Spurs are in a great spot. They can either draft Dylan Harper and build an insane young core, or trade the pick and go after a superstar to compete right now. Also worth noting, with the number 1 and number 2 picks both going to Texas teams, Dallas and San Antonio, the Western Conference just got even stronger. Not only that, these 2 picks went to rival teams in the same division, which makes this even more intense. This draft lottery didn't just shift the future of 1 or 2 teams, it may have changed the balance of power across the whole NBA. The Spurs are ready to make moves, and with Wembanyama still on his rookie contract, now is the perfect time to go all in.